Hi friends. Alright, so we're going to be reading Demi Moore. This is chapter 13. Alright. Yeah, get comfy. In the midst of all this, I was offered the cover of Vanity Fair. My publicist and I were ecstatic. I received a swell of media attention following Ghost, but this was the ultimate get for an actress at that time. Annie Leibovitz and I set up a photo session, but the pictures we took didn't work out. I'd had to dye my hair blonde for the butcher's wife, and the editors at Vanity Fair said the photographs didn't look like me and they weren't going to use them. We'd have to reshoot. I was hugely pregnant by that time. I was able to do the reshoots with Annie. If we're shooting me as I am, I want the images to show that I feel sexy and beautiful as a pregnant woman, I told her. It seemed ludicrous to me that at that time, pregnant women were invariably portrayed as sexless. Women hid their pregnancies under tent-like clothes instead of flaunting their new curves the way you often see today. There may have been celebration at the news of a woman's pregnancy and a celebration at the birth of the baby, of course, but when you looked at pop culture, it was like there was nothing in between. I wanted to change that and do something that glamorized pregnancy instead of playing it down. And that was very much the tone of what Annie and I set out to accomplish with the photographs. They were wonderfully sensual, provocative photos of me all done up, hair, makeup, jewelry, as if it were a fashion shoot that just happened to feature an enormously pregnant model. In one image, I wore a green satin robe that fell open to expose my stomach. In another, I was in a black bra and high heels holding my swollen belly. The very pregnant, very nude picture of me on the August 1991 cover of Vanity Fair was actually one Annie thought she was taking just to give as a present to Bruce and me. It was understated, soulful, without the glitz of the photos we assumed the magazine would want. Annie shot it at the very end when we were already finished, or so we thought at the time. In what became an iconic image, I had one arm draped across my breast, the other cupping my belly, and that's it. I remember saying to her, it would be amazing if they had the courage to use this for the cover, and amazingly they did. Something else momentous happened during that pregnancy. My agent called to say I was a person of interest for a part in A Few Good Men, which would star Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. But you'll have to audition for it, he told me. Would you be willing to do that? We both knew that the director, Rob Reiner, would have simply cast me without an audition. I had done enough work at that point for him to see what I was like on screen, and I had reached a certain level of success. Once you've been in some big movies, you don't usually get asked to audition. At the same time, I'd never had a problem with having to earn a part. It helped quiet the insecure voice in my head asking, is it okay that I'm here? I was 7 months pregnant, enormous, when I waddled in to read with Tom Cruise for the part of Lieutenant Commander Joanne Galloway in front of Rob Reiner. I was nervous. Rob Reiner was a very well-respected director. Aaron Sorkin had written a great script, and I thought the world of Jack Nicholson and Tom. Whom I'd read with 4 years earlier for the part of his love interest in Top Gun. I'd botched that screen test out of nerves, and the part went to Kelly McGillis. I was determined to do better this time, and I must have, because soon after that audition, they offered me the part. The first thing in my head was, I'm going to have to get in shape really fast. On paper, it worked. The baby was due in August. Rehearsals for A Few Good Men were to start in September. It would be tight, but I'd have a month to get myself back into movie shape after the baby was born. Oh my God, a month. I knew I needed to get and stay fit even while I was pregnant for this to work, so I hired a trainer. He actually ended up moving his family into our guest house in Idaho. He had a little boy around Rumer's age, and they spent all summer playing together. My 13-year-old nephew, Nathan, George and Deanna's oldest son, came too, along with Morgan, who was carving out a career for himself in special effects. After completing his tour as a Marine and Desert Storm, we had some really nice time as a family that July, and I worked out with my trainer every day. First it was walks, then walks turned into hikes. We started biking together in the mountains, and I must have been a sight, pumping all the way with my knees completely splayed out to make room for my belly. We were at a Carole King charity concert the night my water broke, almost a month before the baby was due. It was only a partial break, enough to make a puddle around my feet. Everyone around me panicked, but the hospital was a short hop away, and the doctor there turned out to be just as wonderful as the one who delivered Rumer in Kentucky. He had done a lot of volunteer work in South Africa and Africa, and had dealt with plenty of emergency situations, enough to know that this wasn't one. "I think you're fine," he said. "You should go on home." Very few doctors would have allowed that because they would have been afraid of infection, but he was calm and told me, "Just watch out for a temperature and don't take a bath." I didn't go into full labor for 2 more days, and even then the contractions were intermittent. I went to the hospital when they became steady, and the whole household came with me. Bruce, my nephew, my brother, Rumer, a babysitter, plus a friend of ours from Haley. While I tried to kickstart things by pedaling away on the stationary bike in the physical therapy room, my cheering section was setting up camp, ordering pizza, and playing board games. The doctor finally said he didn't think my water was going to break on its own. It hadn't with Rumer either. And at the very instant he broke the water, I went into hard labor. Scout LaRue Willis was born on the 20th of July, 1991, 3.5 weeks early. I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird while I was pregnant, and I named her after its brave young heroine. Vanity Fair hit the stands soon after Scout was born, and it set off a firestorm. I was shocked, though the magazine's editor, Tina Brown, evidently was not. Anticipating the controversy the cover story would ignite, she had tucked the magazine in a white sleeve which concealed my pregnant body from the neck down. Only my face showed, along with the cover line, "More Demi, more." Even with the sleeve, some newsstands refused to carry the magazine. People went insane about it. One camp called it disgusting pornography and accused me of exhibitionism. Another saw it as a liberating breakthrough for women. All I had meant to accomplish was to show that a pregnant woman could be beautiful and glamorous. That there didn't have to be a disconnect between sexy and mother, especially when you consider that sex is what makes you a mother in the first place. I didn't think I was making a political statement. I just thought I was portraying pregnancy the way I experienced it, as something lovely, natural, and empowering. I received a lot of letters from women, many of whom identified themselves as feminists, thanking me for taking pregnancy out of the closet and showing it as a glamorous part of being female. It's hard to believe now when every celebrity proudly gets her picture taken with her baby bump. But at that point, it really seemed revolutionary to a lot of people, and the reaction was overwhelming, both pro and con. To this day, I'm probably more closely identified with that photograph than with any movie I've ever made. I'm very proud of it, truthfully, because it's something I've done that really moved the needle culturally, whether I intended it to or not. The American Society of Magazine Editors voted it the second something. The American Society of Magazine Editors voted it the second best cover in half a century. The top spot going to another one of Annie's photographs, picturing a nude John Lennon snuggling up to a fully clothed Yoko Ono, and taken just 5 hours before Lennon was shot. In 2011, on the 20th anniversary of my pregnant cover, the art director George Lewis, who designed all those legendary Esquire covers in the 60s, Muhammad Ali as the martyred Saint Sebastian shot full of arrows, Andy Warhol sinking into a tomato vortex in a Campbell's soup can, posted this on Vanity Fair's website. A truly great magazine cover surprises, even shocks, and connects in a nanosecond. A glance at the image by photographer Annie Leibovitz that graced the August 1991 issue of Vanity Fair, depicting a famous movie star beautifully bursting with life and proudly flaunting her body, was an instant culture buster, and damn the expected primal screams of those constipated critics, cranky subscribers, and fidgety newsstand buyers, who the editors and publishers surely knew would regard a pregnant female body as grotesque and obscene. Demi Moore's hand bra helped to elegantly frame the focal point of this startlingly dramatic symbol of female empowerment. To me, quite simply, it was a brave image on the cover of a great magazine. A stunning work of art that conveyed a potent message that challenged a repressed society. To help women love themselves in their natural shapes, that's a remarkable and gratifying thing to have accomplished, particularly for someone like me who spent years doing battle with her body. If the cover and its repercussions exceeded my dreams, the article that accompanied it inside the magazines was my nightmare. The smart and strong cover photo was completely at odds with the devastating representation of me in that story. I was portrayed as selfish, egotistical, and pampered. A series of anonymous quotes claimed that I had gotten ghost because I'd married well, and said that being Mrs. Bruce Willis had gone to my head, swelling it unmercifully. There were complaints about the entourage factor, assertions that I was catered to on the set of Butcher's Wife, where the interview had transpired. I was a prima donna surrounded by sycophants, among whom was listed Rumor's nanny. I was still nursing. You try shooting a movie without help while you're breastfeeding. I wanted to scream. Nancy Collins, the journalist who wrote the story, also claimed I was catered to by a psychic consulting, when the clairvoyant on set had been brought there by the producers for everyone's benefit, not for me in particular. I told Collins during our interview it's a lot more interesting to write about me being a bitch than being a nice woman, regardless of what was actually true. Unfortunately, she proved me right. Perhaps I overreacted to the negativity in the story, but it did a lot of damage and became the benchmark on which all subsequent interviews would be based. The distorted portrayal of me as a diva would follow me for years, because anybody doing a story on me or a new movie I was in would first read the Vanity Fair piece and then interview me based on its assertions. The article would also have a subtle negative impact on my career, introducing the myth that I was difficult. A lot of ill will would come my way from that one story, but it was also a humbling reality check. If I was somehow conveying a persona that was totally at odds with how I saw myself and who I wanted to be, then something needed to change. And Collins did get one thing right. I remember being struck by this passage. Willis, who is accused the tabloids of trying to break up his marriage, smolders over any suggestion that the relationship is trouble. As for the tab's ongoing battle to link Willis with other women, Moore is unfazed. Do I get jealous? Sure, but he doesn't do anything to provoke it. So if I do feel that way, it's something going on in my own head. Does she trust her husband? Do I trust anybody? She asks after a long pause. That's the question. Along the way, I've been shown it's okay to trust. So I usually go ahead and take the chance, but deep down, do I really trust? I don't think so. Moore says she trusts her husband probably more than I do anybody, but the only person I really trust is my child. Ginny made matters worse, as she so often managed to do. She so often managed to. Nude pictures of her began to surface in the tabloids. Her need for attention was so desperate, she'd let these rags convince her to pose naked, mimicking the shots I'd done for magazines, including the cover of Vanity Fair. It was pitiful. You're embarrassing yourself, I told her, but to no avail. In her delusional mind, she believed the people paying her were her friends. I tried to explain to her that these so-called friends were taking advantage of her, but she wouldn't hear me. You made money modeling, she said. You just don't want me to. I'd hit my limit. It probably seemed strange after all the truly ugly things she'd put me through that Ginny's behavior with the tabloids was what put me over the edge. I think it's because I saw the potential this particular brand of lunacy had to hurt my kids. Honestly, if it had just been me, I probably would have let her continue the cycle of betrayal and disappointment ad infinitum. But there was no way I was going to let her hurt my family. I broke off all contact with my mother soon after Scout was born. Some of our family members were critical of my choice, but I knew it was the healthiest thing I could do for myself, my girls, and maybe even for Ginny, that's her mom. All the money I'd spent on rehab, the plane tickets I bought when she called me stranded for some insane reason or other, none of it was actually helping her. It was enabling her. No longer would I hold a futile expectation of her being a mother. No longer would I feel that I bore the responsibility of being her mother. I didn't speak to her again for 8 years. Hi, Lucy. There's some pictures here, so I'm gonna hold these up. This one, Grandma Marie and Granddaddy Bill King. Danny as a young boy, note his lazy eye. My mother, Ginny, as a teenager. My father, Danny Gynes, far left with his 8 siblings. Oh wow, and we have more. Might have to pause. That's it. Chapter 13. Till next time. I can't reach. Oh my goodness.